He trusted only one woman in a world full of enemies. She slept beside him. She knew his secrets. She touched his shoulder when the nights grew heavy. But while he was building his empire, she was selling it piece by piece. In a private gambling room filled with smoke and whispers, a mafia boss would soon learn that love could be more dangerous than war. The woman he protected was secretly giving his money to a rival, and when he finally discovered the truth, it was almost too late. His fortune was nearly gone. His enemies were closing in, and the woman he loved had already chosen another man. This is not just a story of betrayal. It is a story of how a king fell and how he prepared to rise again. If you want to satisfy your curiosity on this story, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. Because what happens next will change everything. The city knew his name, even when it pretended not to. In the underground world of private casinos, illegal deals, and silent power, he was called the Mafia boss. To his enemies, he was the Don. To his men, he was the boss. To the woman who shared his bed, he was simply the Mafia boss. Every night, the private gambling room beneath the old hotel filled with smoke and soft music. Crystal glasses clinked, cards slid across green felt, and money moved without records. The Mafia boss always sat at the center table, dark suit, calm face, eyes that missed nothing. He did not shout, he did not threaten. He ruled through patience and precision. For 15 years, he built his empire piece by piece. Clubs, casinos, transport routes, private banks that existed only in ledgers written by his own accountants. And nothing happened in his territory without his permission, except one thing: love. Her name was Elena Russo. She entered his life 2 years earlier, during a charity gala hosted by one of his business fronts. She wore a red dress and carried herself like someone who did not belong in dangerous rooms. She laughed easily. She listened carefully. And when the Mafia boss spoke, she watched him like he was the only man in the world. At first, he thought she was another admirer. Then he thought she was a distraction. But she stayed, night after night, dinner after dinner, silence after silence. She never asked about his business, never questioned his late hours, never touched his phone. She only touched his shoulder when he looked tired. For a man who trusted no one, this felt like peace. His men noticed the change. You smile now," said Marco, his longtime enforcer. "Dangerous habit." The Mafia boss only replied, "A man cannot rule forever alone." Elena became part of the gambling room. She stood behind him while he played, watched the cards, watched the men. Some nights, she whispered jokes into his ear. Some nights, she said nothing at all. And the Mafia boss let her see everything: the money, the ledgers, the private meetings, not because she demanded it, but because he wanted her close. That was his first mistake. What the Mafia boss did not know was that Elena had another life. Every Tuesday night, she left early, saying she had family obligations. Every Friday morning, she visited a spa across town. In reality, she crossed into rival territory. There was another man waiting for her there. His name was Luca Moretti, and Luca ruled the southern districts. He had lost money to the Mafia boss, lost men to the Mafia boss, lost respect. And now he had found a way inside the Mafia boss's walls. Elena did not walk into Luca's world by accident. At first, it was curiosity, then fear, then desire. Luca spoke to her about freedom, about power, about how dangerous it was to love a man like the Mafia boss. "He will fall one day," Luca told her, "and when he does, you will fall with him." He showed her numbers, accounts, routes, ways money moved through the city. And Elena knew things Luca could never learn on his own. She knew the Mafia boss's schedules, his vault codes, his habits. Slowly, without the Mafia boss noticing, small sums disappeared. Not enough to alarm him, not enough to trigger his accountants. 5,000 here, 10,000 there. Yeah, hidden inside legitimate transactions. Elena told herself it was temporary, that she would stop, that the Mafia boss would never find out. But Luca wanted more. You already crossed the line, he said. You belong to the winning side now. Elena stood between two empires, one built on loyalty, one built on revenge, and the Mafia boss remained blind. He still believed in her smile, still believed in her touch. One night, as rain tapped against the windows of the gambling room, the Mafia boss noticed something strange. Elena's hand rested on his shoulder, but her fingers trembled. "You're cold," he said. She did not answer. Across the room, a man stood in shadow, Luca's messenger, watching, waiting. The Mafia boss felt it then. Not betrayal, not yet, but the first crack in trust. He looked at Elena. Her eyes did not meet his. The cards lay forgotten on the table. The chips stood like towers of risk. And somewhere beneath the music and smoke, his empire was already bleeding. Without knowing it, the Mafia boss had placed his heart in the hands of the one person who would destroy him. And the game had only just begun. The Mafia boss had always believed betrayal came with noise, gunshots, shouting, men running. He did not expect it to arrive quietly, wrapped in perfume and soft words. For weeks after that night in the gambling room, Elena changed. She smiled the same. She touched his shoulder the same. She kissed him the same. But her eyes no longer stayed on him for long. They wandered to doors, to phones, to men who did not belong to him. The Mafia boss began to notice small things. A ledger left open when it should have been locked. A driver reassigned without his approval. A shipment delayed without explanation. None of it was enough to cause alarm, but together it formed a pattern. Still, he said nothing. Trust was the last luxury he allowed himself. Meanwhile, Elena was living two lives. By day, and she was the woman beside the Mafia boss. By night, she became something else. She crossed into Luca Moretti's territory through back streets and underground clubs. She met Luca in quiet rooms with no windows. Luca listened when she spoke. He praised her courage. He praised her beauty. He praised her intelligence. "You deserve more than shadows," he told her. "You deserve power." Elena began bringing him numbers, not full accounts, just pieces, a shipping route, a payment schedule, a private code word used between the Mafia boss and his bankers. Each secret made Luca stronger. Each secret made Elena richer. Luca opened a private account in her name. He transferred money there weekly, small amounts at first, 10,000, 20,000, then more, 50,000, 100,000, all taken from the Mafia boss's empire. And Elena told herself it was survival, that when the Mafia boss fell, she would not fall with him. But something darker was growing. She did not just fear Luca, she began to want him. Luca made her feel powerful. The Mafia boss made her feel protected. Power felt better than protection. The Mafia boss sensed the distance. Some nights, Elena turned away from him in bed. Some mornings, she left without a word. When he asked where she went, she said, "I need air." When he asked what troubled her, she said, "Nothing." But nothing was no longer believable. One evening, the Mafia boss summoned Marco, his enforcer. "Check the accounts," he said, quietly. Marco did not ask questions. 2 days later, he returned with a folder. Money is moving, Marco said. Not enough to trigger alarms, but enough to leave wounds. The Mafia boss opened the folder. Transfers hidden inside legitimate business expenses. Payments routed through shell companies. Accounts he did not recognize. Someone close to him was bleeding him slowly. Who? The Mafia boss asked. Marco hesitated. We don't know yet. The Mafia boss nodded. Find out. While Marco searched, Elena made her greatest mistake. Luca invited her to a private casino owned by his syndicate. The music was loud. The lights were low. The drinks were strong. He held her hand openly. In a place where the Mafia boss had no eyes. For the first time, Elena felt free, until she saw something that made her stomach tighten. A man from the Mafia boss's crew stood near the bar. He saw her. He saw Luca. He saw everything. By morning, the rumor reached Marco, and by night, it reached the Mafia boss. She's been seen with Luca, Marco said. The room went silent. The Mafia boss did not shout. He did not strike the table. He simply sat. For a long time. She chose him, Marco said quietly. The Mafia boss closed his eyes. Every memory returned. Her hand on his shoulder, her whisper in his ear, her promise that she belonged only to him. Now, it all meant nothing. Do not touch her, the Mafia boss said. Not yet. He needed proof. He needed numbers. He needed to know how deep the wound went. Marco worked day and night. What he found was worse than betrayal. It was destruction. Nearly 40% of the Mafia boss's liquid money had been moved. Routes compromised. Accounts exposed. Rival syndicates closing in. Luca was not stealing. He was preparing war. Elena had given him the keys. The Mafia boss stood alone in the gambling room that night. The table was empty. The cards untouched. Elena entered quietly. Her hand reached for his shoulder. This time, he felt nothing. How long? He asked. She froze. How long have you been selling me? He said. Her lips parted, but no words came. In that silence, the Mafia boss understood. Love had not blinded him. It had been used against him. Outside, Luca's men moved closer. Inside, Elena stood between two empires. And the Mafia boss realized something terrifying. He was not losing a woman. He was losing his throne. And if he did nothing, there would be no empire left to save. The war had already begun. The Mafia boss did not confront Elena. Not yet. He watched her. The way she moved through the gambling room, the way she avoided his eyes, the way her phone never left her hand. Every gesture became evidence. Every silence became a confession. He ordered Marco to disappear from sight. No shadows, he said. No warnings. He wanted Elena to believe she was still winning. For 3 days, the Mafia boss acted as if nothing had changed. He played cards, he drank wine, he kissed her forehead before sleep. And Elena believed him. She thought the storm had passed. But the storm was gathering inside him. Marco returned on the 4th night. We traced the accounts, he said. Luca has been preparing for months. The Mafia boss listened. 40% of your liquid assets are gone. 2 transport routes are compromised. Your 3 safe houses are no longer safe. Your codes are in his hands. The Mafia boss closed his eyes. This was not betrayal. This was invasion. And Elena? He asked. Marco hesitated. She gave him everything. The words did not wound him the way he expected. They hollowed him. She still meets him, Marco continued. Twice a week. Same casino, same room. The Mafia boss stood and walked to the window. The city lights flickered below him like dying stars. She loved me, he said. She loved your power, Marco replied. The Mafia boss did not answer. That night, Elena returned, late. She smelled of smoke and another man's cologne. "You're quiet," she said. "I'm tired," he replied. She touched his face. Her hand felt unfamiliar. In his mind, the gambling room collapsed into silence, and every laugh she had given him now sounded rehearsed. Every promise now sounded borrowed. He had trusted her with his empire. She had traded it for another man. The next morning, the Mafia boss made a decision. He would not punish her with anger. He would punish her with truth. He ordered Marco to allow certain transfers to continue. Not real money, false money. Accounts were created with numbers that looked rich but were empty. Routes were listed that led nowhere. Codes were changed quietly. Elena continued to pass information to Luca, and Luca believed it. Ships arrived at ports with nothing inside. Men waited at doors that did not open. Money vanished into accounts that never existed. Confusion spread through Luca's empire, but Elena did not know. She still believed she was destroying the Mafia boss, and the Mafia boss watched her destroy a shadow. One evening, she asked him directly, "Are you afraid of Luca?" The Mafia boss looked at her. "No," he said. "I am afraid of what you have become." She turned away. In that moment, something in her broke. She no longer touched his shoulder. She no longer slept beside him. Her loyalty had already crossed the border. Marco brought another report. "Luca is preparing to strike. He thinks you are weak." The Mafia boss smiled for the first time in weeks. Good. He wanted Luca to move first. He wanted Elena to witness the fall she created. But inside him, another war burned. Love against power. Memory against survival. He remembered the night he met her. The red dress, the laughter, the illusion of peace. Now he saw the truth. She had not betrayed him for hate, but she had betrayed him for escape. And escape had a price. The Mafia boss stood alone in the gambling room again. The chips were stacked like towers of loss. The cards lay untouched. Elena entered quietly. "Do you still love me?" she asked. He did not answer. Outside, Luca's men moved into position. Inside, Elena waited for a future that would never come. The Mafia boss felt something colder than anger. Clarity. He was no longer choosing between love and empire. The choice had already been made for him. And soon, both Elena and Luca would learn what happens when betrayal mistakes patience for weakness. The trap was ready, and the night of reckoning was approaching. The night arrived without warning. Rain washed the streets clean, as if the city wanted to forget what was about to happen. The Mafia boss, dressed in silence, dark suit, white shirt, no tie. He did not look like a man preparing for war. He looked like a man preparing for a farewell. Elena watched him from the doorway. "You're going out?" she asked. "Yes," he said, "a meeting." "With who?" "People who think I am finished." She nodded. Her eyes avoided his. That was how he knew. Marco waited downstairs, with 2 cars and no questions. "The pieces are in place," Marco said. "Luca is moving tonight." "Good," the Mafia boss replied. "Let him believe the story she told him." They drove to the private casino on the edge of the river. Neutral ground, where no syndicate ruled openly, where deals were made in whispers and broken in blood. Luca had chosen the location himself. He believed the Mafia boss would arrive alone, broken, desperate. Elena followed in a separate car. She wore the same red dress she wore the night she first betrayed him. Inside the casino, music played softly. Cards moved. Glasses clinked. Luca sat at the center table, smiling. "You came," Luca said. "I was beginning to think you were afraid." The Mafia boss took the seat across from him. I came to see what you stole, he said. Luca laughed. I didn't steal anything. Your woman gave it to me. Elena stood near the wall. Her hands trembled. You told me he was finished, she said to Luca. You said he was weak. He is, Luca replied. He just doesn't know it yet. The Mafia boss placed a small folder on the table. Yeah, open it. Luca hesitated, then did. Inside were numbers, false numbers, routes that did not exist, accounts that were empty, codes that led nowhere. Luca's smile faded. What is this? This, the Mafia boss said, is what Elena has been giving you for weeks. Elena's breath caught. You said it was real, she whispered. Luca looked at her sharply. You lied to me. She lied to both of us, the Mafia boss said. Men began to appear at the edges of the room. Not Luca's men, his. Marco stepped forward. The ports you moved on tonight, Marco said, are empty. The money you expected is gone. Your men are standing in rooms with nothing inside. Luca stood. You planned this. Yes, the Mafia boss said, because you believed betrayal made you powerful. The casino fell silent. Every card stopped moving. Elena backed away from both men. This wasn't how it was supposed to end, she said. The Mafia boss looked at her. You sold my empire for a promise, he said. And he sold you a lie. Luca reached for his jacket. Marco's voice cut through the room. Don't. More men stepped from the shadows. Luca froze. For the first time, fear entered his eyes. The Mafia boss stood. You wanted my throne, he said. Now you can keep the ruins. He turned to Elena. You were never my enemy, he said. You were my weakness. Her face crumpled. I loved you, she said. You love safety, he replied. Outside, sirens began to rise. Not police, private alarms, syndicate signals, the sound of borders closing. Luca's empire had collapsed in one night. His money was trapped, his roots exposed, his allies confused. And then Elena stood in the middle of it all. Come with me, she begged the Mafia boss. We can leave. Start over. He shook his head. There is no place for you where I'm going. Marco opened the door behind them. The rain poured inside. The Mafia boss walked past Elena without touching her. Behind him, Luca sank back into his chair. The game was over, and the cost of betrayal had finally been counted. Outside, the city did not cheer. It simply continued breathing, because empires do not fall with noise. They fall with silence. And this night, two of them had fallen at once. The city did not remember the night the trap closed. It remembered what came after. By morning, Luca's empire was finished. His accounts were frozen by the syndicate banks. His roots were seized by men who once answered to him. His allies vanished without a word. No war was declared. No bodies were displayed. Power simply changed hands, and everyone understood why. The Mafia boss returned to the gambling room alone. The tables were empty. The lights were dim. The cards lay scattered like broken promises. For the first time in years, the room felt small. Marco stood by the door. It's done, he said. Luca has no money, no protection, no future. And Elena? The Mafia boss asked. She tried to leave the city before dawn. No one will take her in. Every door is closed. The Mafia boss nodded. He felt no victory, and only distance. Elena came that night. Her face was pale, her red dress replaced with a simple coat. They abandoned me, she said. Luca's men, your men, everyone. She stepped closer. I made a mistake. The Mafia boss did not move. You made a choice, he said. I thought I was saving myself, she whispered. I thought love was weakness. He looked at her then. For me, love was trust. and you turned it into a weapon. Tears filled her eyes. I still love you. He shook his head slowly. You loved the man I was when I protected you, not the man I became when I needed truth. Silence filled the room. Outside, the city lights flickered through the windows. Where will I go? She asked. Anywhere that does not belong to me, he said. She waited for mercy. It did not come. Elena left without another word. The Mafia boss never watched her go. Days passed, then weeks. His empire stabilized. New routes opened. New accounts replaced the old. New loyalty was tested and earned. But something inside him remained closed. He removed her chair from the gambling table, her glass from the bar, her name from every conversation. Love had nearly destroyed him, so he rebuilt himself without it. One night, Marco asked, "Do you regret trusting her?" The Mafia boss thought for a long time. "No," he said, "I regret believing trust could survive betrayal." From that day on, he ruled differently. No one touched his shoulder. No one saw his ledgers. No one slept beside his secrets. The city still feared him. But now, it also respected him, because they knew something had changed. The man who once loved had become the man who remembered. Years later, people would whisper the story about the mistress who sold a king, about the rival who believed her, about the boss who turned patience into a weapon. And the lesson was always the same. Power can be stolen. Money can be taken. But betrayal costs more than both. In the end, the Mafia boss did not lose his empire. He lost his heart, and that made him stronger than ever. Because the most dangerous man is not the one who loves deeply. It is the one who has learned what love can destroy. If this story moved you, don't forget to like this video. Subscribe to the channel for more Mafia boss stories like this one. And tell us in the comments, was the Mafia boss right to walk away from the woman who betrayed him? Or should he have given her a second chance? We want to hear your thoughts.